Welcome everybody to our latest webinar. We're joined by Ruslan from Float. Float is an app that we've been using with clients quite a bit recently, and we're happy to introduce you to what they do. So I'm joined with Thomas from the RLB digital team, and again, Ruslan from Float. Ruslan, we always start out with, what is Float?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me here, and really excited to share more about Float and what we do and the products we've built here over the last few years. So just to set a context, Float got started in 2020. We're a Canadian business, Canadian startup, have been growing quite rapidly, and we've started this simple idea in our minds of how do we make banking and finances for Canadian businesses easier and simpler. So we started that idea, and our first product that we launched in 2021 was a corporate card. So very simple. We saw the problem that a lot of businesses navigated, which it's really hard to get a corporate card in Canada, and then once you have a card, it becomes hard to manage the expense on it and make sure your employees have a different card for their expenses, so on and so on. So we started off with a corporate card as our first product and have been evolving that substantially over the last few years. And Flow does a lot of things at this point, and I'll walk through some of them in a demo and through some of the slides here. But at a high level, people come to us for a variety of reasons, like helping them deal with credit card transactions maybe weren't authorized, scattered financial statements, multiple reports you have to pull from different accounts, different systems, poor visibility, understanding of where your money is going, and having cards in everybody's pocket but not seeing where the money is being spent. Very often when you have a single card, it gets compromised. It's really hard to take that spending back and cancel it across all the systems. And you have to reissue card and deal with manual bank processes and be on support line for a long time. Capturing receipts, something that people really appreciate in Float and that we made really easy for customers. And then finally, sort of all of this rounds up to a much, much faster month-end experience for our customers by using Float and using Float for their company expenses across the board. So sort of to summarize all of this, Float is what we call the smartest business finance platform built for Canadian businesses. We do corporate card, which is our initial product we started with. We do also reimbursements for employees to pay out of pocket and then request money back. And we do the payout for you as well directly from Float. So it's all easy and fast. And now we also do bill pay as well for our customers. So you can actually pay your bills via ACH, EFT wire directly from Float. Manage your intake process approvals and the payouts from Float as well. And most exciting, I think, something that doesn't actually exist in Canada very widely is we also offer our customers 4% interest. So whatever money you deposit into Float, it immediately starts earning you interest. And if you have that idle cash and you don't want to spend it right away, but you want to maximize return, Float is a great place to do that as well because it gives you interest rate that you'll probably never get from a bank. And something we're very, very proud of being first in Canada to launch this. I'll pause here if you guys have any further
No,
questions.
yeah, that's awesome. I know their Float's evolved a lot over the last few years, and our first introduction to it and what drew us in was that combination of the receipt capture and the card all in one. Rather than having your card with your big bank or whatever it would be, and then your receipt capture and having to reconcile, it really just made a lot of sense, and that's what drew us in. But building around this is, I'm excited to hear kind of what's new and what you've got for us. Who would you say your ideal customer is, or who is Float best for?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we have a variety of products now, and I would say different customers come to us for different reasons. So, if you're owner operator, if you're founder of a startup and you want to manage your spending, the most common products that people like from Float are, our high interest accounts, of course. So the fact that you get 4% interest on your deposits with Float or with your cash you hold with Float is really, really attractive, especially if you have that cash available to you to spend with. And then the other part of it is our corporate card. So again, as I mentioned in the beginning, getting your first card from a bank is actually really tedious and really painful. With Float, you get your account set up and basically cards spun up within less than 24 hours. And you can have virtual cards that you can issue immediately, or you can ship a physical card to your home or office address if you need to. And it's generally a much faster process than going through like a major institution in Canada. And the best part, frankly, I think with our cards too, is that you practically don't have a limit that you ever run into because you set your own card limits. As long as you pre-fund the amounts that you need to have in Float in place and the cash is there, you can spend as much as you want. So, a lot of people come to us as early stage startups or businesses not having enough credit limit on their card as well, and
Mm.
Float sort of solving that problem for them quite effectively. And then obviously the cashback you get with it, the interest together, just maximize the return for your capital, right, as a business. So it's a quite smart solution. And then I find that for bigger companies, so when you talk about the professional finance team or accountant bookkeeper, they really come for that, the things you described, which is the receipt capture, which is your automated account integrations with Qubio as your NetSuite, so we can reconcile your month and do the month end much faster. The ability to upload the bill and track it all the way to payment. So those like workflow solutions, I find they resonate a lot more with professional finance people. And on the other hand, with owner operators, founders, it's the card really, and the interest is the magical experience for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that concept of a digital card is new for people, right? Like, and also the concept of, yeah, I'm sure you'll get into it a little bit, but you can have some different rules on these different cards, whether they're spend limits or the types of things people are able to spend on them. It gives them that much more control, but and it rolls up into one, one management platform to reconcile and look at them all. So I think it's a new concept for a lot of folks and a lot of our clients to kind of get their head around. So I'm excited for the demo and happy for you to jump right in and show us a little bit more of the product.
Yeah, totally. So let me hop over to my float account.
Thomas and I will
I've
probably
been
jump in with some questions. I hope you don't mind on these demo casts. We try and act a little bit as the client, but we'll try and let you go the best we can.
totally. Yeah, no, feel free to jump in anytime you have
Okay.
questions, and I'll sort of get going here. But Float is. I'll just start off by saying Float is built in what we like. We describe as modern age product, right? So we're digital first. We have a mobile app that you can use for all of your expense. We have a web app that's really beautiful and easy to interact with. And again, a very fast sign up process that's fully online. So you never have to go visit the branch or do anything in person yourself. We have excellent support too, which can answer any of your questions as they come up, and is very, very responsive. I think our average response time is under 1 minute on the team, which is kind of crazy. But we get back to people really fast, and we really think it's important to provide that support to our customers beyond just sort of the product you get out of the box, if I can say it that way. Um, but yeah, this is your flow dashboard. So this is where sort of your journey starts. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff here already. This is sort of like a demo account I can walk you guys through. But at a high level, Float's experience always starts with sort of depositing or pre-funding your balance in Float. We also offer a charge card product. So, here it says pre-funded, but you can also be on a charge card. We do limits of up to, I think, $2 million with customers. And we underwrite you on that 30 terms, so you can get extra cash flow that way and sort of extend your runway as a business if that's required for you. But the core experience on Float always starts in our what we call banking product. This is where you can see all of your balances in Float and what this money can be used for. Float actually supports both Canadian and USD currencies out of the box. So when you get your account, you're going to have both of those available to you immediately. And what's great about that is you can get USD cards from Float as well that directly pull money from your USD account in Float. And all of this, meanwhile, is earning interest, earning you cash back, and so on and so on. So you can see how much interest you earn in Float directly, 4% applied to your balance at the end of the month, computed daily based on your average balance. So no lockups, no minimums, none of that stuff. You just get going and you start using Float and benefiting from all the rewards that we have as part of our product. But this is where you can connect your bank account, initiate a deposit if you want to. We support Interac if you want a faster top up. We also support bank transfers if you want to load money directly from your bank. You can set up auto funding too. Anytime your balance drops below a certain amount, automatically load additional cash into it. So this way you really never run out of money as a business. And your cards hopefully never run into a limit either, because those can be configured any way you want as well. And this way you can, pay your big bills if you need to through a credit card, maximize your cash back as a business too, which is really beneficial, and save on FX because you have those two currencies available for you at the same time. So that's our sort of banking product, and this experience has all evolved quite rapidly and will continue evolving. The other piece, that people come to us very often, and I touched on, are the cards. And it's something you mentioned as well, which is, how the cards work is really interesting in Float. So I'll walk through that quickly. Um, just to highlight though, we have both physical cards and virtual cards. They're your normal, Visa MasterCards that you get over your mail if you ship a physical card. Vice versa, virtual card is just a normal Visa card itself too. So the acceptance rates are never problems for our customers. You spin up these cards very quickly. You can start spending them anywhere you want. You can add them to your Apple Wallet. It's just a normal Visa or MasterCard card that's in your wallet at this point, and it has excellent acceptance rates. So that's never an issue for our customers. And then when you click on a card, you can actually see here all the information sort of related to it. So you can see how much you have available to spend here, the currency. You can reveal the card number, the details here. I won't do that right now in the call, but
Sure.
by clicking this button, it's going to show you the number. You can copy paste it to any online checkout page and make a transaction. You can manage your limits here, and then some of the things you touched on are the controls that come with these cards, and that's what we call float cards, not just like your normal bank card, but something that's much smarter because it helps you save so much time when it comes to managing your spend as a business, and frankly, be a lot more thoughtful about where money goes and never feel like you're losing control of your spend as a business. So for every card, you know exactly who's spending on it. You can, map it to your team if you track that in your accounting system. You can actually restrict categories directly in Float. So if you want to say that, this card should only be allowed for software electronics, you can actually choose that, hit confirm, and now if this card gets, swiped anywhere else, it will just decline with a message explaining that the only allowed category is software and electronics, for example. So this is my 1Password card, and that's what it's used for, and that's why there's only one category allowed in it. You can customize how the card is mapped. So every time this card is swiped, you can see the GL code that's going to be applied here. It's going to be software and tools. You can apply any GL code you want here. It's really up to you. This is what we call our accounting automations. We have a bunch of them.
And
But
those
altogether,
accounts are
yeah,
synced from QuickBooks or Xero right
exactly.
into
So
Float. Yeah.
Float is always synced. If you're QBO, Xero, NetSuite, we pull all of your accounting data. So all of your tags, all of your project codes, location IDs, and whatnot, and you can start applying them to transactions or bills in Float directly. And this way, everything that syncs to your accounting system at the month end from Float is fully categorized for you. So you really don't have to do much closing the books because Float helps you categorize all of these expenses right away. Um, yeah, and then just to give you some examples, so this is primarily used for 1Password for us right now, but you can see in Float, you can basically capture all the details you need for your accounting system. So GL codes, again, synced from your accounting system, applied here. We use NetSuite at Float. Our department codes are synced from NetSuite. You can upload a receipt here. We actually have what we call receipt matching, and you can text us a receipt over your cell phone number, which is a lot of customers really love that. The fact that you can just go on your phone, grab a picture of it on the go, throw it out immediately after. We will automatically match it to the right transaction in the system for you, and the receipt will just show up here. You can also forward it over email inbox to us. We have a dedicated forwarding address for every account, every user in the system. Put additional attachments here if needed, provide description, assign a team, everything you can imagine. And this does the whole suite of also multi-part tax code tracking. So you can see, we track all the tax codes in your system. And again, we sync them from your accounting system. We can grab them from your receipt if receipt is provided, and all that fun stuff in between. So by the month end, I'll just sort of jump a little bit here, but
Sure.
by the
Just
month
just
end,
one question there on the
yeah,
receipt capture. If I have a card, this is more for the bookkeepers and accountants of the world. If I have a card I spend at Starbucks this morning, is the app or the text message reminding me to get that receipt in?
correct. So
Okay.
um, we have recurring reminders for
Hmm.
spenders about
Okay.
outstanding receipts they need to provide, and that goes out over text, it goes out over email, and if you connect your Slack to Float, we can also send those over Slack too.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the part sort of I was getting to is, by the time you're at the month end, as an accountant, as a bookkeeper, frankly, as a business owner, you're looking at a list of transactions that's like mostly coded for you, and you're literally never guessing who spent which amount of money and why, right? So you can always know exactly who was the spender, exactly the card this came from, the date, the merchant. You can automate coding if needed. you'll see the receipt here if they provide one, and so on and so on. So, instead of dealing with like a very common story we hear is we have 5 PDF statements we got out of our bank system, and each one of them has 100, 200 items in it. We have no idea who spent that money. And then people start spinning up Excel sheets separately, start asking people to provide details of their cards separately as well. With Float, you just don't deal with that anymore. And you have this sort of single source of truth of every single expense in your business, why it happened, who made it. And you can always, follow up with people if they need to provide any more additional details to that transaction specifically.
And I think I'm going to jump in there with a great point where I see a big use case here is people do that with like the 5 receipt, the 5 cards, but they also have expense reports coming in from employees. Well, just the concept of expense reports with all of these cards don't need to exist anymore. The expense reports and company cards can kind of become the same thing.
Exactly. That's bang on. And, you can capture everything in one place, in one system. I can walk you through the reimbursement experience too. But, you know, what's really powerful about Flow that we find is like customers effectively get rid of like 4 or 5 different tools by just switching to Float. So it's usually your, expense tool. It's usually your like receipt capture. Like we hear a lot of, tools like Dext, HubDoc, and a bunch of other ones, which are
Sure.
great, but they're so narrow in their use. And then there's a lot of tools around bill pay, for example, and sort of accounts payable, call it that way. So when you bring all these tools into a single place, you get a single source of truth of all the expenses. You can always find who spent what and why. You can see how trends in your expenses change every single month. You can sort of pinpoint the exact GL code that went up and sort of like understand why, which user went up and understand why, and so on and so on. So this level of control and visibility is, something our customers really appreciate and goes a long way for them as well. Yeah. Cool. Let me know if you guys have any other questions, but a few other pieces I haven't showed you, but are there is, with all this ways of spending, so your bills, reimbursements, cards, we'll have a whole, call it portal built out for you to actually track all your requests as a company and make sure you can set up the right approval sequences in your business. You can make requests for changing your card limit, or maybe you want a brand new card, right? Or anything else like that. So you can literally go into Float and say, actually, I'm a spender here and I want to, choose a new virtual card. And it's going to go under this approval policy. Here's my details. Maybe I'm buying like a ChatGPT license, and so on and so on. This is going to be a temporary card for $500, and it's going to expire in 30 days. And I can provide supporting documents and all this other fun stuff. But what's great about this is, once my manager or whoever else is in the approval sequence, the finance team approves this card for me, I can then go spend this card. And what's awesome is that this card will get automatically deleted by this date. So again, as a finance person, with all these requests and approvals, all you have to do is just say approve, decline, or edit them as needed. But you don't have to deal with all this sort of like nitty-gritty details of chasing people for, hey, you took that card, the limit on that card is too high for you to keep it long term, or I need to change that limit on the card that I've given to somebody else because of their trip, because of the travel I did.
Yeah, they're going on a conference or trade show. I like that concept of the one time. I can see a lot of use cases there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll show you one here. So I was hosting an onsite for the team, and my physical card in Float has $1,000 recurring limit on a monthly basis. It's going to reload by the end of this month. But then for team onsite, there was additional couple $1,000 because went out for dinner and spend some time with the team in person and things like that. For the person who set this up on our finance team, they now don't have to worry about me spending or carrying a limit of $3,000 going forward. That's not the case. They just provision the limit to me. I spend it for the next 30 days, and after that it just disappears automatically. It goes back to $1,000 recurring limit for me going forward. Okay. So saves a ton of time in the process. Yeah.
Okay. I had a couple of questions for you, Ruslan. What defines what a category is? So when you go and you spend like you spend like at Amazon, how is the category applied to that? The sort of, I know credit card companies themselves define what is they define as entertainment and stuff. Does your team deal with those?
Yeah, so you're talking about these categories, right? Like the restricted categories?
Yes, those ones, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you know, the the benefit of Float is that our cards and our software are very deeply integrated together, and that's really powerful for a few reasons. This is the functionality you will never get with like a legacy expense tool, like maybe Concur or Expensify, and it's very intentional to build it this way. But um, because they're so integrated together, we actually get proprietary data from Visa and MasterCard whenever somebody swipes our card. And Float itself can make a decision if a transaction will be approved or declined. Like Float's uh, application makes the decision. So if you tell in our app that a certain category isn't allowed, first of all, that change propagates to your card instantly, like in real time. The second I add, for example, airlines as an allowed spend here, immediately I'll be able to spend at airlines. Vice versa, if I change my limit on a card and add additional $50, um, you know, this will be immediately applied to my card as well. I can now go spend that $50, so you don't have to wait for limits to propagate. But then the other benefit, as you are asking, is that we get this proprietary data from every single swipe, and we can actually determine based on Visa's and MasterCard's definitions of categories, which they maintain, they collect from the vendors, they check them. So they're quite accurate in that case. And it's not just something we came up with ourselves. It's actually something that's provided to us by this cards payments processors. Yeah.
So just to follow up on Thomas's question there, is like it's pretty, you're finding that clients don't run into that a lot where, yeah, you've approved airlines, but they booked it through Expedia. It still sees that as travel and knows the
we own ourselves the mapping, if you can say it that
okay.
way, between the payments processor's definition and like what we show to customers. So we can actually give a lot of freedom to our customers there. And
Okay.
Normally we don't hear it as an issue that our customers run into very often. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. And then if you, let's say I'm going on a business trip, I'm going to Holland for maybe like a week, the business trip. Can one restrict the card to only be used in a certain geographical area? So you could say this can only be used in Europe kind of thing, or this can only be used in North America.
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't do that right now, unfortunately, but it is definitely something that we've considered in our roadmap. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's quite difficult. It doesn't happen often, but I was just wondering on that one. And then how many virtual cards can one create? So let's say you've got 5 users. Is it 5 virtual cards or is it a specific number?
Yeah, so we have a few. So it depends on the pricing plan you're on at Float, but we have an essentials plan that is forever free. You still get cash back. You still get 4% interest. And I think we limit to 5 physical cards, but unlimited virtual cards. And then there's the professional plan, which is $10 Canadian a month per user. And there you get unlimited everything. So you can create as many cards as you need for your business. Yeah.
Cool. That's pretty cool. And the card itself, is it underwritten by Visa or MasterCard? Or does it matter?
So the cards are issued by Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah.
The underwriting, when it comes to like getting a 30-day balance that you can pay off at the end of 30 days, like a charge card product, we actually underwrite ourselves. So we have an underwriting team in Float. They will work with your finance team or with you directly if you're the owner operator to understand your business and your needs, and they'll come up with a limit from there. And very often we hear feedback that Float is able to give somebody a limit that they would never imagined. And the best part is that it's unsecured, right? So we don't ask you to lock in any cash. We don't ask you to, like buy a GIC or anything else like that. It's pretty much we underwrite your true business financials directly. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I had for now.
Awesome. Well, the 2 other things I'll show you briefly is, we have our reimbursements product, as I mentioned. Float is really built for both finance teams, but also the employees. And something we think about a lot is sort of like the team outside of finance that also needs to interact with these products. When finance or business chooses to use Float, it impacts everybody in the company, right? So that's really important to us. And employees get to use this really nice and easy to use product to submit their reimbursement request, for example. They can provide the information from their receipt. They can see the sequence of people that need to approve it before the expense. They can do all these things to really make sure that they get their money back on time. Float does the payout for you as well directly. So you can see here a bunch of the people in our team have connected their bank account, and that means by the end of the month, whatever the reimbursement amount that goes out is going to go directly to their bank account from Float. And again, that's another system or step of month end you don't have to deal about because now you don't have to export a CSV of all the reimbursements from your expense tool and then go into your payroll tool to initiate a payout. Now you can just do it from one place as a business. And then finally, it's the bill pay product that I touched on briefly as well. This is actually one of our latest additions to Float's suite of offerings. And we're really, really excited about it. It's been growing really, really rapidly. We still feel like there's very little available in Canada for, managing your bill pay and your invoices and initiating the payouts. This gives you basically everything you would need as a business managing bills. So, you can upload new bills. We do the OCR for you immediately on the spot. You can choose your approval policy and who needs to approve it based on the sequence of the approvers that you set up. We automatically match if there's an existing payment that you made to the same vendor. I'm actually going to match that vendor for you, so you don't have to do much at all. Detect, bills, currencies, invoice numbers. If there's a duplicate, we'll find that as well. You can pay in two ways in Float. You can pay from your pre-funded balance, which also earns you 4% interest and gives you that one-day business payment timeline, or you can pay directly from your connected bank account as well. So you have the flexibility there. And, the best part is as you categorize everything and we sort of pull all these details for you directly from your invoice, you can then actually initiate a payment and just schedule it for a specific date. So if this is good to go by the 31st, I'll just set that. And now this bill is going to be scheduled for the 31st. On the 31st, the money is going to go out and land in the account of our vendor. And this supports EFT, ACH. It supports global wires as well. And you can manage pretty much your entire bill pay process through Flow directly here. I'll pause if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, just quick question there. When you post, so if you post a bill here, and then you posted the payment for 30 days out, does the bill sync to your QuickBooks and go to your accounts payable, or does it wait until it's paid to go to QuickBooks?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we import unpaid bills from QuickBooks. So you see the sources. You can create it via email, so you can forward it to the inbox that you can see right there.
So if it went to QuickBooks first.
Right. If it went to QuickBooks, this source will show QuickBooks as well. So we will pull your bills from QuickBooks if they're unpaid. And then once you schedule them, there's sort of like two stages, right? There's a scheduled or approved bill stage. Once you've approved it, we will actually sync it as unpaid to your accounting system. And then when the money goes out and actually is sent to your vendor, we will go into your accounting system and update that bill to now be paid. And we'll do the whole matching of the transactions behind the scenes for you too. So this way, again, you do your workflow in Float, but you don't have to think about a separate process for month end into your accounting system.
Sure. This is what's very different from us from the last time I've seen Float, is this and the reimbursements. Thinking of like it's really the bill payment around anything, those other things that weren't paid with the credit card, right? Whether it's a staff member that was out of pocket, had to pay cash for something or whatever it was, you can still use Float, from my understanding here, to manage that payment and transaction, and the same with paying bills that you're not going to use the credit card for. So it's expanding beyond just the credit card.
Exactly. So now, it's a place for you to store your, call it operating cash and earn interest, because otherwise you probably won't get much interest in it. It's a place for you to manage your credit card spend, your out-of-pocket payouts for employees, for reimbursements. I don't think I showed you, but we also do mileage here. So if I go to create a reimbursement request, I can switch between so you can do mileage or you can do out-of-pocket spend. And then finally your bill pay, of course. So you can actually pay your bills globally via wire or EFT, ACH in Canada, US. So it does kind of cover those multi-currency use cases for you immediately, helps you maximize your idle cash, and then helps you just manage all of your non-payroll expenses, practically speaking.
Okay.
Brilliant,
Awesome.
yeah. I had a question I wanted to jump into is user access and sort of like user preferences and different levels of access. So I imagine with Float, you can basically bring in your entire team. You can people who have cards, people who don't, bring a bookkeeper. You probably can do ring fencing. You can give them access to certain areas. And then if you could just maybe show us in the settings, if I have a team of 5 individuals and I want to restrict what accounts they can post, what they can select from. So let's say they go and they have a card, they do basically, I'm a construction company and they're going to buy from Rona or various different categories. I want them to only have 2 or 3 GLs that they can actually select from. Can you sort of reduce that entire 200 GL list to just 3 or 4?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I'll quickly address the sort of like user permissions and access control. So Float connects to, I believe, 100 plus HRS systems. We actually sync them into Float for you here, and you can sort of approve them and assign them to the team, as you mentioned, which is an important step here. And then, we have a variety of roles you can choose from: spender, AP clerk, who manages bills but cannot do top-ups or anything else like that, bookkeepers, managers, admins, and whatnot. And then to your second question, so in Float, we have a variety of configurations you can set up for yourself, from approval policies to, after you swipe the card, maybe somebody else needs to review that transaction before you sync it to your accounting system. So we have what we call review policies. And then finally, we have what we call submission policies, which I think touches to what you're asking. So in Float, you can basically say, people team expenses. So this is at the team level. Transactions above $30 require receipt. GL codes that are allowed to use are only this 18 GL codes that we have selected for them. It's not everything that's out there. As you can see, there's only a couple of them that are selected.
Some selection. Yeah.
Correct. And you can do the same thing for, classes, departments. So here they're only able to choose between HR and talent departments, for example. So tax codes. You can even do fun things. So this is something that customers really like when they show them. Depends who you show it to, but you can actually pause the card automatically if somebody isn't categorizing their transaction based on the set of rules you see here. So if you say GL codes are required for all transactions, so now if I swipe the card and I didn't choose a GL code for my transaction, after 3 transactions like that on my card, it'll just get paused automatically. And then if I go into the system and actually upload my receipts or categorize the GL codes as a spender, my card will magically get unpaused. So that's again an example of experience where it just saves so much time for you. You don't have to chase employees for receipts for all these details. And they're incentivized to keep using their card because it's such a great benefit for them and they love it. And at the same time, they get to provide all the information that you need for the month end. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It definitely makes it easier to manage a team and the team members themselves to sort of like provide slips, because we get a corporate card, you spend a couple of things, you lose a slip. But like you say, if as soon as you're swiping it on the app, it gives you the opportunity to take a picture of the slip right there and then. It makes it much easier. So it definitely it speeds up their process. And like you said, this is like a nice pain point that their card stops working. And we're like, why did it stop working? Oh, I haven't done what I'm supposed to. They do it. That actually sort of like, it's like a pain point that actually will get them to do what you need them to.
Exactly. So that covers the system and how you can use it and things like that. There's a ton of other use case we found customers love and Float. We have a whole feature here for reporting, probably for subscriptions. So if you have subscriptions that you manage as a business, you can actually track them here directly. Upload your contract here. You can track who owns it, renewal timelines, and all that detail in between. We can detect for you when there's a spike in your spend, when there's duplicate subscriptions and things like that. We give you these insights that help you, again, save money as a business. A lot of our customers really like spinning up separate virtual cards for each vendor. I kind of showed this briefly with my 1Password card, but this is really powerful for the reason that, if you create a card and this specific card gets compromised, all I have to do is just cancel this card and literally never think about it again. Just create a new one, update it on 1Password website, and then I'm done. Vice versa, if you're using a single card for all the SaaS expenses with traditional card you get from a bank, it gets so much harder to go through all the systems, because once a single card is compromised, you have to update all of a sudden 100 different subscription tools or 50 different subscription tools. Good luck chasing those passwords down and figuring out what happened to them and who manages what. Exactly. So again, this is another example of make it really, really easy for you to manage your spend and feel like you're in control all the time. Yeah.
Exactly. Is that kind of the, I don't want to call it a workaround, but is that the feature of spinning up a card for a specific subscription? Then I'm assuming you can say there's no receipt required for this. Or can you do that per vendor on another card? Because I always hate getting asked from the accounts payable team for a receipt for something that's just auto-subscribed every month and having to go find that.
Yeah. So here, I'll create a card right now. Again, you can do it in either currency. Give it to
hopefully they're not watching this, but
and then this is where you get the submission policy. I showed you the settings part of submission policy. This is what you see as an admin. So for example, our tech tools, they would not require receipts. They just require GL codes and departments. Vice versa, if you apply our travel policy, they require receipts for transactions over $30. So this is an example of being able to be really thoughtful about what's required when. And not making everybody provide every single detail that's out there. Yeah.
I like that. That's very thoughtful.
Yeah. And I think also a nice feature with Float in general, that we haven't really touched on, is if you're an owner of business and you travel a lot, or you're not in the office, or you don't have time to go to the bank, you can just do this all online. There's no requirement to pack up your stuff, book an appointment with someone at the bank when they're open, kind of thing, to do it. You can do this on the fly. If you need a virtual card, you just hop online. Well, obviously the user with the right permissions can do it, go create the account, and then boom, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's huge.
You're really in control of your spending here. And, something I didn't mention yet, but we did a whole survey of customers who use Float, and we asked them, so how much do you think you're saving by using Float instead of what you had before? And at first we thought it was just going to be, the 1%, the cashback you get back. But we actually came back with a number of about 7% that customers save by using Float, which is kind of fascinating to us. At first, we didn't believe it ourselves. We've had to check it a few times. But the TLDR we got to is that, there's obviously cashback, which is great. There's the 4% interest, which is, quite beneficial if you keep some cash inside Float, use it for bill pay, reimbursements, cards. But then there's the time savings for your team, which is really massive. There's the prevented charges that normally you have to deal with a bank to go dispute them and deal with. There's all this control you get in place. Instead of having to sort of react to expenses, you can now be proactive about them and not create a single card for $20,000 limit and give it to 5 people, but instead separate cards, make sure everybody has their own limit, make sure the limit goes down by the end of the month if they don't need it anymore. Like all these little things that end up adding up to, frankly, some of the biggest savings for customers. We've heard stories of people getting overcharged by vendors, but because they paid through a virtual card, that overcharge never actually happened. And the magnitude we've heard is 100K, 200K over our bill. That's a big amount of money that businesses save by being really thoughtful with, virtual cards, physical cards, limits they assign to them, and so on and so on. So the value, I think, is really, really impactful, and a lot more than just sort of the 1% of cashback that you get, regardless of Float anyways. Yeah.
Agreed.
Are you okay with us just continuing on with questions, or do you have more to show us?
No, go ahead with questions. I think I've shown you most of the product at this point. Yeah.
Perfect. What would you say is the most kind of common integration or, companion app with Float? Like I assume it's, one of the, accounting applications, but are you finding most of your customers are with QuickBooks, or is there any other, you mentioned Slack, is there any other integrations we should know about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I can probably show it to you here. So for accounting, I think by far the most common is your QBO, Xero, and NetSuite. We hear those really often, and that's where Float syncs all of your accounting data, but then also exports your transactions at the month end. We then have, I think, a bunch of integrations with HRS systems, which are very common as well.
So that's helping you manage your users. People
exactly.
leave the team, join the team. Okay.
Correct. So HRS integrations help you manage your users. For Float, that's in HiBob. If you have like 100 other systems, we can connect with all of them. It also helps you to automatically suspend the cards when the like employees leave your business, which is really
Mm,
convenient again to make sure they don't make like a fraudulent expense on the card after they've been terminated, for example. Nothing that this is the stuff that like you never want to deal with, right? So Float automates it for you. And then the last piece, I think it's your Slack, it's your like email forwarding integrations, call them that way.
okay.
Those are some of the most common examples. Yeah,
Is there an open API, or is it right now just kind of those natively built integrations?
we have an API now, so
Okay,
people can build on top of Float if needed. It's not a marketplace per se,
sure.
but it is an API you can access data from. Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, do you have anything on the roadmap that you're able to share with us, kind of like a what's coming next, what's the focus, anything that's, right on the horizon or long-term goals with what Float's hoping to build?
Um, Totally. I mean, I think, card is by far one of our most mature products. We want to continue expanding our card use cases, but Down is probably the one that people have adopted the most widely and, generally love a lot and come to us for very, very often. But then
Hmm.
there's a lot of new products we have, reimbursements, bill pay. Those were launched practically like October last year. And
Okay.
I think the amount of things we want to continue building there is still very high. Our high interest accounts, the 4% interest that you earn on your flow balance, um, those have been quite popular as well. So I think we'll continue evolving the financial offerings we give to our customers, because at the end of the day, it saves money to everybody involved, right? So that's how we think about it.
Okay. Everybody always wants to know, what does it cost? So is there, whether it's the pricing page on the Float website, or do you have anything where you can show us kind of where, what it costs to get started in Float? You mentioned a little bit of the different, the free forever plans and the essentials, but if you're able to just give folks an idea of what maybe their different costing options are.
Yeah. So it's our pricing page,
Okay.
flowfinancial.com/pricing. As I mentioned, we have three plans here. The essential one is forever free, $0 a month. You don't have to pay anything for it. You get your employee reimbursements, you get bill payments here, you get cash back, you get yield. You get, I was actually wrong, you get 20 physical cards and unlimited virtual cards. And then if you want to, so the way we describe it is, if you want to start managing bigger teams on Float, that's when you usually go to professional. So this is where you get your advanced team controls. And this is where you can apply for a charge card with Float as well. You get premium support. You get a lot more onboarding help as well, helping set up your ERP integration with Float, helping onboard, hundreds of employees you might have in your business and so on and so on. And then finally, we have sort of a custom tier for some of our largest customers as well, which we usually deal with case by case in terms of pricing and how we want to set it up.
Okay. Okay. So kind of the business model, people are going to see free, and what's the catch? Essentially, the business model is, you're looking through, you're earning money in the back end through spend. You're looking for, those pre-funds and the spend on the cards, and you're offering the software as an incentive for people to use it. Is that fair to say?
It's exactly right. So I think it's pretty much how every other financial institution makes
Yep.
money in this business, in this category. And um, the best part for us, frankly, we started Float with this very heartfelt pain point of dealing with getting your first card, dealing with sending out a wire payment and having to go to a branch to do that, and all those like really broken experiences. Which we look back at it and we go, how is it possible in 21st century that that's what you're dealing with as a business? It's hard enough to run your business, let
Hmm.
alone like manage your finance at this point. So we saw that as just like a massive pain point for customers. So our mission and vision has always been unlock the growth of the Canadian economy, of the Canadian businesses. And the more we can offer these tools for free, the more we'll continue doing that. It's really important to the reason why we even got started in the first place, frankly. So that's how we think about it. We still believe it's the best deal out there, but there's always different functionalities that people need and different setups. So we're still learning a lot and evolving the product as well for our customers.
Awesome. And I know you've provided us a referral link for our clients, and maybe anybody that's watching this video. Can you just explain? We'll put it in the link below wherever you're watching this video. But can you just explain a little bit about what a new sign up might get if they use our link?
Yeah, great question. So I believe it's a $500 account opening bonus, and
Okay.
it's a 12-month of professional plan for free. So if you only get started and get access to all those premium features as a customer, then use that referral link that you guys have that I'm sure you'll share,
Yep.
and that'll give you the perks that come with it. And we do it with our partners, people we work with, we trust with, and it usually helps customers ramp up and sort of just get started with Float much quicker.
And that 500 goes as against whether it's a charge card against a balance or as a pre-fund. Is that how that works?
It gets deposited into your Float balance, so you can use
Oh,
it
okay, great. Whatever.
for whatever
That's
you want.
amazing. That's amazing. So thanks for doing that. I'm sure a lot of people will find that helpful and will find this helpful. One of the reasons we do this is, somebody might not be aware of something like Float and want to just kind of quickly learn a little bit about it before booking a demo. But if they want to learn more, what's the best way? Should they be reaching out to you? Should they be clicking the link and just signing up? What's kind of the natural next step that someone might want to take if they're interested in starting with Float?
Yeah, definitely. So the link that you guys will share will take them directly to sign up Float. They can always check out our website, so
Sure.
floatfinancial.com. You'll see a lot of details information here. You can learn about our products. You can learn about solutions by role, use case, industry, and so on and so on. And then finally, if you really want to get the call with our sales team, we also have a sales team that will be very helpful to answer any questions you have and sort of help you navigate the decision-making process of like, is this the right tool for you? Is it going to meet your needs and things like that? So
Yep.
they're very quick to respond, very quick to follow up, and we'll help you navigate the purchasing journey. Yeah.
And I'll say that Thomas has helped set up Float for a few customers as well that have just wanted to go online and commit support. So just throwing it out there to the viewers that anybody that does want to just move ahead and is signing up, that we're available to help with configuration or general questions and things like that. But I think we've covered it all, and just want to thank you, Ruslan, for the time today. This has been great, and I think a lot of people are going to find it helpful.